So thank you all for coming today. Let's get started. I see I have a good group here with my poll. Thank you very much for filling it out. It gives me a good idea that if everything works. If you have any questions during my webinar, please fill it in the GoToWebinar questions and I'll get to it at the end of my presentation. If you have any other questions regarding audio or something, please do fill it immediately so I can address it. But it looks like here I'm getting a go ahead from my technical support here. Thank you very much. So we'll get started. Hello, my name is John Tkachevsky. I'm the president and co-founder of FileCatalyst. You can check out our blog, filecatalyst.com/blog. We have a lot of good articles there for you regarding file transfer and anything else. Also, if you're interested into specific webinars, I've been doing a webinar once a month for the last 2 years. There's a lot of material out there on our website, so feel free to review it and read it later on if needed. So I will be giving you a short introduction to FileCatalyst, why it's faster than TCP. Then I'll be talking about different components in workflow, and finally I'll be showing you a demo. Finally, we'll do some questions at the end. So FileCatalyst is an accelerated file transfer software. It's meant to move very large files using the internet or any IP network. We can move these files up to 10 gigabits in speed with encryption on a regular hardware you can buy off the shelf today. We're not affected by latency, packet loss, so we can send files practically on any IP network. And we are integrated with a number of cloud providers today, for example, like Amazon S3, Azure, OpenStack, just to name a few, to give you ability to move data fast to the cloud. So why are we fast? Well, first of all, we have to go back to about 1970 when TCP was first invented. So TCP was created a very long time ago. Without it, internet today would not be able to function. It allows you to browse web pages, download emails, use FTP and so on. Unfortunately, FTP was designed in the era when network was much slower. You're talking here, maybe 5-6 kilobits, or maybe even less. So when this was designed, the speed wasn't designed with performance in mind. And that's why TCP, as latency and packet loss increases on the network, gets very, very slow because it's a very linear process. For every packet you send, you wait for acknowledgement, as you can see here on my graphic. And as you're sending these packets, you're waiting. So there's a lot of dead air. You're just waiting. You're waiting instead of sending files. So here's an example of how FTP or any TCP network, so by FTP or TCP I mean CIFS, HTTP, SFTP, any network, like if you use Windows file sharing, for example, it's all TCP based. So as you can see, if you go with this is a 100 megabit connection, you can see with minimal latency, which would be on your local area network, TCP gives you quite a good performance, and you're happy with it. As soon as you start leaving your office and going across your city, across your state, or maybe country to country, or even across the continents, if we get into much further latencies, then you can see TCP drops, and FileCatalyst stays the same. If you look very close in this corner here, you'll see that actually TCP at very low latencies, it's a bit faster than FileCatalyst. So that's why it's important when you're actually testing our software, test it in a real life scenario. Don't test it with 2 computers on local area network, because you will not see any performance improvements on TCP. You got to test in a real life scenario, or you can get yourself a network emulator that will emulate real network conditions if needed. I'm just going to double check my questions. I see there's no questions here, so it sounds like audio is good, so I'll continue my presentation here. So what do we do with FileCatalyst? Well, as you can see here, now we're sending a lot of data online. So there's not just one little packet going. There's several packets going online at the same time. That means your line is always full and working hard, and that's why we can send as much data as possible through the link. As we're sending this data and anything gets lost, we can detect what was missing and retransmit the missing data at the end of each block. So this gives us a much faster throughput. You will always maximize the bandwidth regardless of where of network conditions. We're not affected also, so this gives you predictability. If you have a 100 megabit link, you know you'll get the 100 megabits whether you're sending files from across the street or across continents. Another big thing when we're doing this type of file transmission is that we need to make sure we don't send files too fast, so we don't oversaturate the link. And this is called congestion control. So we will always check online on the link, see how busy it is, and if it's too busy, we will slow down the flow of data so the link can be working optimally. If you have other TCP traffic online, our goal is to make the TCP traffic slower, but it's still passable. So we'll leave room in the background of the line to allow TCP network to flow through. So we're not just blasting packets like some of the open source UDP file transfer functionalities. We're actually looking in the background and slow down or speed up as necessary. And this concept of sending a lot of data through the packet and not waiting translates into a big time saving. So here's a gigabit link from Amsterdam to London where you have over 200 miles of distance. You can see with FTP that will take you an hour and a half to send a 10 gig file. We can do it in a minute 23. Example from New York City to Buenos Aires, now we have a distance of several thousand miles. FTP takes 3 hours, we're a minute 23. So you can see everywhere we're a minute 23. This is this reliability part where you know you'll be always delivering files at certain speed regardless where you go. 10 gigabits, of course, the speed is much faster. You can see that with FTP we do this in now bare seconds instead of hours. So once again, the faster the link, the more you can push through FileCatalyst, and this is the performance improvement that you'll get. Of course, if you're a TCP, if you know your TCP stack and you can tune it, you could probably maybe get this an hour 28 down to maybe an hour if you use FTP, but you will never get down to a mere minutes if you're transferring it. So just for those that are TCP experts out there, I know that TCP is tunable. You can lower the speed, but it will be just maybe 20-30% of it, not down to 95% faster than what we can do. So just to give you a perspective, and then this has to be tuned on both ends, which is not that simple. You have to recompile TCP implementations on Linux, so it's not a simple task, but definitely if you're a graduate computer science student, it's doable. So let's now go back to the product we came here all for, and it's FileCatalyst Workflow. So this was just, I gave you a little background information why we're faster. Now I'm going to move on to the specifics of the workflow application. So Workflow is a web-based portal for all your file transfer needs. That's really what we call it. It supports 3 core applications. So first one is an upload portal. So you want to, you're a corporation that receives large data from customers. They drop this large data and then you do something with these large files. Whether in video, it could be encoding. If you're doing closed captioning, it could be closed captioning. If you're in, let's say, printing, you will take these large files and print them. If you're into database mining, you will take these large database files and process them to mine some information. So all of this means that the some customers from all around the world will come. Many people will come to your website to drop files to you. So it almost like it becomes like a web-based Dropbox for files. And then you decide what to do with these files once the files are dropped. You can process them, put them in specific folders. You can fire specific events on the back end to help you with the process of providing a service to your customers. Second option, second workflow that we support is ability to transfer files via email to any recipient. So imagine you have a 10 gig file sitting on your drive, you need to send it to five people via email. Well, you could put it on an FTP server, but that's not simple. You could maybe put it on a web server somewhere, so then you send HTTP links. This is all not very easy to track. You can just upload it to FileCatalyst Workflow, specify the email addresses, and Workflow will take care of the rest. We'll send out download links with instructions on how to download files, that large file from Workflow. While you as a sender, you get a full tracking and logging of everything that is happening. You can control how long those links are active. You can control password for those links if you want to protect them with a password. All of this is built in. And of course, files are never included as attachments because attachment usually can be not bigger than 20 megs. There's only a link in the email with instructions of how to download and install the client for acceleration and so on and so forth. And a third option, which we have in Workflow, is online web-based folders. So imagine you have a web folder with a whole bunch of files and people log in to download these files. Maybe somebody uploads a new version of that file. Maybe that you want to have a few versions of this file on your web folder. Maybe you want to automate the download of these web-based folders with hot folder, which is also possible. So if you want to have a replication of that folder in another area, you can do it as well. So imagine it's a web-based folder where any number of people can upload files, download files, and can be synced with hot folder. So these are the three things essentially. Now, what kind of requirements for this type of an application requires? Well, usually we prefer 2 cores, 8 gigs of RAM, 120 gigs of disk space for our application. You will need more for, of course, user-generated stuff, so all the user files. You can map it, of course, to a network SAN or NAS if you want to have your user files there. And it works on pretty much all the Windows, Mac, Linux versions. It has to be a 64-bit Java install on it with Tomcat 7 and MySQL and so on. It's important to say that it's good to have a subdomain for this type of system, so you can create yourself a subdomain. Let's say call it, I don't know, filecatalyst.mycompany.com. So you have this product easily accessible on the web. We can work with static IPs, but it's a bit more problematic for IP routing and all that stuff. But subdomains are usually preferred way to go. On the client side, what do you need? Well, you just need a recent web browser with an email account to receive emails, and there's no Java plugin required on the browser. If the user does require to have acceleration, they will need to be able to install an application, but it doesn't have to be an administrator right to install this app. This app will install in the user space. That's the transfer agent app I'll be talking about in a minute, and of course some kind of a broadband connection. So let's go here to back to university days. Here's your FileCatalyst Workflow 1. So here are some of the core components. So you have your secure transport. This is your transfer agent. This is the application that runs in as a plugin in a web browser. When the user accesses the web page that needs it, they will be prompted to install it, what we call an inline installer, and then they are off to the races with acceleration in the web browser. If, however, they do not wish to install it or can't, then we have HTTP backup. So we have a form upload, for example, for uploading with a native form upload in the web browser. No plugins required. Same thing on download. If they click on the link, they can just click on HTTP links and download with the web browser. Of course, there's no acceleration and you cannot download a lot of files at once, but it's there. Then we also have the hot folder. If you want to do synchronize folders, we have mobile apps and an SDK if required. For intelligence side, so there's something called fields, where you can create custom metadata on the order forms. You have your sites. FileCatalyst Workflow can plug into several sites. Could be FileCatalyst servers, or it could be third-party FTP servers as well if you want to work with that. And then you have file areas and jobs. Just to give, a job would be a job would have a number of metadata fields, a certain FTP or FC server assigned to it, and the files attached with the upload that come in. So for file transfer options, what can you do in workflow? Well, you have the transfer agent for upload, download, and file areas. You have the transfer agent supports UDP for acceleration, multi-stream TCP for sort of slower acceleration with TCP based if UDP is not possible, and as well HTTP failover. This will automatically resume and retry. You can close your web browser while the transfer is happening, and you don't have to wait for the browser to finish. You can close your web browser and the plugin will continue in your system tray. There's no file size limits. You can send folder structures, so I can send a complex folder structure to workflow and share it with someone. Hot folder is to automation and to synchronize your, let's say, group areas and drop them into a specific place, or you could have also hot folder upload into a file area. That's possible as well. For native browsers, so for those who cannot install or do not wish to install transfer agent, there's a native form upload. User just needs a web browser with just as a regular HTTP post of files. There's a 2 gig file size limit for using that native stuff, and there's of course no retry or no resume, but this ability is there. And on the download side, there's also links. So download side, we could probably handle larger files than 2 gigs because it's just a download, but we have that ability to just use the native browser components. For mobile, so we have ability to upload into file areas. We have job submissions for iOS and Android as well. I'm gonna let you read this later, but the big thing here is the field. An order form is a combination of files of a job. It's a combination of metadata fields and the files. The files will be sitting on some kind of a FileCatalyst server or a third-party FTP site. You can overwrite target locations for this site from the order form, and you can also trigger script execution on the back end or call a URL. And then we also store all the job artifacts as XML, JSON, or PDF if you want a third-party application read this from data submitted from the user. Some other good components, so we have groups. So just create your file areas, your file areas for multiple users. You create a group, you assign a file area for it, and then multiple users can be assigned with permissions to either upload, download. Jobs is that integral part of workflow, which I'll be showing in a minute. And status, you can create as many statuses as you want. Some statuses are triggered automatically, for example, from incomplete to sent when you submit files, and from send to ship when you download files. But you can also define some other status levels as needed. Users can authenticate internally through LDAP, Active Directory, single sign-on. We have user templates as well, that if a user from Active Directory logs in, you can give it specific rights in workflow to do specific things versus a user that, let's say, is internally authenticated. You can assign users to multiple groups, and you can assign specific functionality to users. So for example, submission only, distribution, file area, admin, or full admin. And users, there's 2 levels of admins as well. There's an admin of super admin and a sort of a lower level admin that can kind of just look at jobs and users but cannot configure the application. File areas are web accessible shared folders that you can submit files either via the web browser or hot folder or the mobile apps. So building blocks, this is kind of gives you an idea what happens. You have the user authentication at first with the security level enabled. Users could be either broken into administration type of users that look at jobs and administer the stuff, or user can create jobs or access file areas. You have different transport mechanisms with either transfer agent, HTTP form uploads, hot folder. Those are mapped to specific sites, so each user could be assigned a different site. It could be either FileCatalyst or FTP site, and all of this is part of workflow. So this was a quite of long and boring information, but it's kind of needed. So when I do a demo, you have an idea where we stand. So let's start with my demo here. So I have everything set up here on my local computer to run to run locally, so my demo can run nice and smooth. I mean, will be all web-based and it will be all remote, but here in this for demo purposes, everything is local. So let's do first case, which is just a regular email distribution of files. So I'm going to log in here as a user. The first thing I do when I see is all my previous jobs. As you can see, I've done a lot of them. I was just demoing the software before the webinar, so you can see I've done quite a number of uploads. You can see the files that were sent. You can add number of other information here. For example, you can add upload speeds to see what speed I was uploading these files at, and so on. All this information is here, as well all the metadata. So for example, if I add, here's a date picker example. This is a meta field that was entered for this particular upload. Some are empty because some of these jobs did not have this field required. So now if I want to send new files, I click on new job. You can see here you get a drop down for type of upload I want to do. So in this case, I have two options here, distribution and upload. Distribution will send files via email. Upload will be just upload to a central location. Of course, as administrator, you can narrow this down and say a user is only allowed to do a specific function. They don't have to have access to both if you want to keep it simple to the end user. But in this case, for the demo purposes, I've created two different order types. So I'm just going to click on distribution. And now here's some information I can enter. So I can enter my recipients. So as you can see, I get a drop down here, autocomplete for my address book. I can click on address book here and pick recipients this way. The nice part of the address book is actually it's syncable with your LDAP or Active Directory. So your corporate users see get all the users, and it remains in sync with your LDAP and Active Directory once you configure it. So this is a nice add-on for your corporate users. So I'm just going to insert selected here. I started typing here, so I'm just going to remove this guy. And here are the files. So once again, what I'm really doing here is I'm creating a job. These are metadata fields. A message will be part of in the email. This is the email sent to. An expiry, once again, this is optional. I have it set here, so when will this upload expire? So let's say I'm going to say a week from now. So after a week, these files will be gone and not downloadable from the server. As administrator, you can force the date, or you can remove it altogether and just leave the files there for as long as you want and let auto deletion pick them up later. So now I'm into the upload step. So there are several things that happen here very quickly. I'll go through them. First of all, I went to a web page that requires transfer agent. Transfer agent wasn't running, so web browser started the transfer agent for me. If I didn't have transfer agent installed, I would get a prompt here saying please download and install transfer agents. Just like you did for the GoToWebinar here, you could install a plugin and use it. It's the same concept that applies here. You had to install certain plugin in the browser to use this application. So since I already had it, all I had to do is just launched. And you can see now in here in my system tray, I have it running. I have transfer agent running in the background. So transfer agent is set up. It shows me all the current transfers because I can keep in mind I can close my web browser and the transfers will continue through transfer agent after it's done. Some other options in transfer agents is to connect to a central monitoring system, but we're not going to talk about this today. It's a topic for a different day. So now I will just to show you some configuration options, if you go to transfer agent, you can configure, for example, your download location. So now it's set to downloads, which is the default, but I can browse and change this to go somewhere else and set it up in different places. So now what I'm going to do, I'm browsing my local file system now in the web browser, and I'm adding files to my queue to transfer. I added 2 files here, and I'm going to click on Start Upload. So now few things are starting. As you can see, 2 files are transferring all at once. The reason why we do 2 files at a time, performance. If we're moving 2 files, it's faster, and the delivery, everything goes faster when you send 2 files at once. You can configure how many files you can send. We know this 2 to 3 concurrent transfers is more than enough. You saw the speed upload there, and everything was submitted. So now you can see here that the job was submitted, a tracking number. So imagine this is like your UPS tracking number is generated, and also this tracking number has been emailed to sent via email to the recipient, so the recipient can now download the files. If I had the web browser closed, all of this would have happened. I just wouldn't see the screen because the transfer agent would take care of submission and generating of tracking number and all that stuff for me. So now I'm done sending the files. If I go to view jobs here, here's the file I just sent. We'll log out now, and we'll go over to my email. I just set up here, I think, Thunderbird client, just to illustrate the email delivery. So I got 3 emails. Well, one is because it's all local, I'm sending, one email is the confirmation to the sender that something was sent. One is to the recipient to pick up the files, and the third one is to the administrator to notify the administrator that a job has gone through. So if I click on the files from John Tkachevsky, here's the files to the recipient, and now I'm flipping hats. I'm becoming a recipient, and I'm just going to click on this link here. This takes me right away to the download page. So now, because my transfer agent was already running, there's nothing to launch. I have to download all files, which will start transfer agent to download all the files. I have the HTTP links here that don't require transfer agent. So if transfer agent wasn't running or I couldn't get it going, I wouldn't see this button and I wouldn't see these links, but I would still see this. So I still can download the files just via regular HTTP web browser and view. Another nice thing we have on the email delivery is that we generate a preview. So you can see I sent 2 video files, and I can click on the video file and actually see a low-res 30-second. You can see a 30-second preview of this file. Now the configuration of the preview is completely customizable. You can set the resolution you want. You can set the quality you want, meaning larger the file, the longer it will take. But this is all set up here that you can actually see a quick preview. So if I had if these were very large files, I wouldn't have to download them all. I can watch them online and figure out which one I want. Same thing goes here. So as you can see, it's right here for you to download. So to download the files, I'm just going to click on download all files, and now I'm downloading this file to my system. Everything is coming together. I just have to click once, even if there were 2 files. And now I even have a button here, reveal download location, to show me where the files are going to go. You can see here my Explorer is blinking, and the files went into files from John, download, and here are the 2 files. So this is the basic use case of email delivery. Now I'm going to show you the next step, which is an upload through not necessarily through a user, but more through like what we call a public access. So if you want to be able to receive files, let's say from your website, you want to get people to send you files to a central location. So for this, we have something called a public access here. If you click on this, I configured in this case that both distribution and upload forms are visible. But once again, if you're an anonymous user, for anonymous, you could make distribution not available for anonymous users and only the upload available. So in this case here, I just click on upload, and here's now I can enter the information. Once again, there's no login required. There is you can send files to, you can put the email address who is the sender of the files. Now giving you here, showing a couple of examples. So for example, this is a date picker. So you can select and enter a date picker that you can make it, and see this little dot makes it required. Select example. So here's a drop down. See, you can select, and here are my files. So now I'm sending files as a sort of anonymous user, no login required. This is like a general Dropbox of files into a system. What happens on the back end? It's completely up to you. You can have it sent to a specific folder, specific storage, different type of FTP site. It's completely customizable on the back end of the admin side. What happens with this type of workflow? We provide the interface and the GUI, so you can do it, and you then decide through all these fields, order forms, and sites where the files go and how they are structured. So here I clicked on upload. Once again, the same similar interface for upload appears, but now I'm going to do something different. I'm going to click on use basic uploader, because FileCatalyst Workflow comes with a native upload form. As I mentioned, if transfer agent is not available, a user can still upload files to the system through form upload. And here's my form uploader. This doesn't require any plugins. This will work in any web browser that supports upload, which is every web browser. And now I can select files. This will even work on mobile devices as well. I can select files I want to send. So here's a file I selected, and now I can send. So here's a file I selected, and now I can click on Start Upload. And files have been submitted. In this case here, you notice there's no tracking number because there's no email recipient. In this case, it goes to a central storage. You can configure who gets emails for this specific upload, what process to fire. Maybe you want to execute a script. Maybe you want to call a URL. Maybe you want to move the files to a specific folder. All of this on the back end is configurable through FileCatalyst Workflow. So this is sort of the generic upload screen. Now I want to show you file areas. So for file areas, you need to log in because that requires. So for file area, I have another button here called file area, and I have something called my file area and a group file area. My file area will be just for me as the user. I can put my private files there. Only the administrator of the system has access to these files, nobody else. And sort of it's like a web-based folder where I can put files and keep files there for later. Group file area, however, is much more interesting, which I'm going to click here for now. Group file area gives me the ability to share a specific folder. This is the folder that is shared here amongst other group members. So administrator creates a group, designates a folder somewhere on the system, and then users can log in through this web interface and either upload files and download files. So here's an example of me uploading a file to a file area. The file area has few functionalities. First of all, this gets all uploaded here. That means all now group members have access to this file. It generates a recent history view. So if I click here, I can see who uploaded what and when, and what was changed. The timeline, this is now done for the last 15 days, but you can configure this to be whatever time you want. By default, we have it by 15 days, but you can keep track of what was changed and what was uploaded. Another thing file area does, it can also notify all the group members if something changed in the group. So for example, if someone uploads a new file, everybody in the group will get an email saying, oh, user John TK uploaded file XYZ, and therefore it's there. You can go and grab it if you need it. So there's email notifications. Another thing that is nice with file areas, either my file area or group file area, is that I can send files into an order form. So I'm going to select here a couple of files, and I'm going to click Send Selected Files. And now what I'm doing is this takes me back to the order forms, and now I can include it in an order form either as a distribution email order form or a central upload form. So I'm just going to click on distribution, for example. So before, when I was uploading files to this email, remember this email where I typed in the email address of who I want to send the files to, now the files are already pre-selected. So I can share any group folder information. It could be also the folder level. So if I want to share a group folder, I can do that as well. With others that are not necessarily part of the group. So if I want to send a link to these two files to somebody outside of the group, they'll be able to look at these files, but they will not be able to modify them, of course. But I can share these files sitting in a group with others that are outside of the group. And I just have to click on Finish. There's no upload required in this case because files were already there. So if I show you this link, let me just log out here, and I go into, here are the files that I submitted. Here's the group area files. So the recipient of these files will just look like somebody sent them 2 files. But those files actually came from a group area that somebody selected, hey, by the way, I need this to see. And of course, preview also still works, and somebody can watch the files and download them. So as I mentioned, there's multiple files. So let's go into the admin interface now of FileCatalyst Workflow, so you can kind of see what's possible in here. So first, when you log in as administrator, you have the list of all the jobs submitted in the system. So you can see, the user. This, by the way, would be like an anonymous user because it was submitted. You can see there's an IP address instead of a username. So there was that public login that I did before. You can see tracking number if it's there. You can see which server it was dropped to. So for example, public, I had it configured to go to my IIS FTP server, not necessarily a FileCatalyst server. You have the ability to click on Get Files on any of these and grab the files as administrator. So you can see here the files that I submitted. You can search by fields. You can find your specific files by user. You also have a little audio indicator here for the jobs that arrive as a sort of a public drop from public Dropbox, where like people want to just drop some files in. You have a little audio indicator. So if a new job arrives, this web page will actually give you an audio ding saying, oh, something arrived. So maybe it could be files from a client that need to be processed. All of that is possible to change. When you go to users, this is of course where you have all your user information. Different users. This can be connected with a specific LDAP or Active Directory. You can have specific users can have their own file areas, which you can access it here as admin. And you can see the users can be assigned to specific servers. So for example, user Tim is their preferred server is IIS, and user John Tika is the default. So you can see you can define each user can where's the preferred server and where the files from uploading from them will end up. If you go to groups, this is where you can make group folders. So here you can specify the path for each group folder. You can see how many users are in it, add, remove users from this group. And if you look in the group example here, I'll just show you, I added this group here. So you have the option to permissions, whether it's a download only or upload only, which order form this group is allowed to use, and the email members for the following events. So this is, I mentioned, when someone drops a file in a specific folder, an email will be sent to all the group members saying, hey, user Joe changed the file XYZ, and therefore you see this change. as well as you have the logs of all the users accessing this specific folder, so you can browse and see what's going on with with this information. So if you go to FC server script execution, as you can see, I have already two sites defined. The default one, which is my FileCatalyst server. So you can see here I have my host, username and password on my FileCatalyst server. My FileCatalyst server is running as well here. So here's user FC web. That's the that I'm using for default, and user FC web is mapped to this path on my system. So see FileCatalyst server data. If I would want to have user FC web mounted, let's say on a NAS or a SAN, I would use a // some username, some specific share folder I want to do, and then this user will connect, and I will be able to I'll be able to use that as storage. You could have multiple servers defined that point to actually the same server but just different usernames, because for example post-production could be going to a different SAN than, let's say, marketing. Marketing will have their own SAN, so you can break this up into same server, just different usernames, or it could be a totally different server. Here I'm an example. I have an IIS web server defined, so you know, if I click here, you can actually see this is an IIS server that I'm using as a third-party FTP server. So of course, when someone is uploading to a third-party FTP server, you don't get all the acceleration, you don't get some of the high-end features of FileCatalyst, but this is a nice feature if you need to change things around. So these are the sites. The nice part, these are the sites. Okay, HTTP upload and download. So I just wanted to touch base here on what can you change. So as I mentioned, the FileCatalyst Workflow supports transfer agent. We do still have Java applets, which was the traditional older version, but applets are now gone. So we still have it for backend support, and you have HTML form and HTML form upload. So you can define here default file transfer methods for either globally for all the users or only a specific set of users. You can say that some users use transfer agents while some are used to just a traditional form upload. Same thing for file area. You can say whether you want to use Java applet or transfer agent. So by the way, file areas are limited to either transfer agents or Java applets. There's no native web browser file areas. We're not able, only for regular job upload or download, we can create that. So you can define this here. Another way to force a certain upload methods, if you go to the order form, and let's say I want force form upload for this upload form, I do this, and now anybody that will use this form will always go to form upload and will not be even prompted for transfer agent install. The nice part is that if you select transfer agent, Workflow will suggest to the user to install transfer agent. However, if the transfer agent user chooses not to install it, they can cancel it out, and they'll get straight to form upload, where they can upload files. We still upload files. You also have, these are the permalinks for these upload forms. So if you want to send emails to a specific form upload to a set of users, you can just copy this permalink and email it out to whoever you want. So like this, they don't have to have a username and a password on a system to log in and submit files. So just to go back, let me remind, I need to remember what's the next step. Okay, so templates. So as I mentioned, a lot of things here is customizable. FileCatalyst comes with a number of templates, pre-configured templates. For example, now I'm running FC Modern, but you have Real Vista, Basic, an FTP type of looking template, Blue, Online, so, and a printer type of. So you can select whatever template you want to use on the system. You can also have fine-grained customization of these templates. So I can go to edit template source, and now I'm into my HTML. I can make changes to this template and make it customizable, make it look and feel exactly how my website looks. You have also the ability to create, upload your own logo, and then the FileCatalyst Workflow logo would be removed and your own logo would be uploaded. You have the ability to apply for style sheets if needed, and you have the ability to set custom headers and footers for each specific page on the upload. So you can see here you can specify header and footer for the files. So this is sort of a quick overview. Thank you very much for watching. I will pause my recording and then I will take some questions. So for those viewers that are watching this is as a recorded video, thank you very much for watching, and I will continue with the questions.